Today we are grading all 22 civilizations across 5 key categories: economy, map independence, win conditions, unit flexibility and combat. Then we will use magic of Excel to average those scores and find out which civilization is statistically best on paper, of course, based on my personal rankings. Every category gets rated from 1 to 10. For economy we are looking strictly at raw production, what your villagers and structures can actually generate. I'm splitting economy scores into the 5 phases: Dark Age, Feudal, Castle, Imperial and Post-Imperial. Then we are gonna average those out and get our final number. I am not gonna include discounts for army or free units like military schools. We are looking strictly at your income. How many raw resources can you generate to dump into your army? Next we are looking at map independence, essentially how versatile is the civilization. To judge this, I'm grading each civ across 4 specific map types: open land, water, hybrid and closed or semi-closed. The goal is to see which civilization can dominate anywhere and not just on dry Arabia. Win conditions is easily one of the harder categories to rank. I will explain when we get to it, but simply put, we are looking at options. Does the civ have just one predictable strategy, or do they have multiple viable plays they can execute? Unit flexibility is pretty straightforward. We are analyzing the unit roster available in each age. The main factor here is predictability. Does the civ have the tools to pivot into the different units or into the different compositions? Are they forced into the specific army type? And finally we have combat. Along with economy, this is probably the most important category. We are looking at army strength per resource spent. This is where bonuses like free units and cost reductions finally come into the play as a major factor. I'm also weighing in population efficiency, especially in Imperial Age. For example, 100 knights are obviously stronger than 100 spearmen, even if spears are technically the counter, because knights just pack more power per the pop cap. We are starting with Macedonian Dynasty. Their economy rating is not great because they lack traditional eco bonuses. Sure, they save a lot of resources on upgrades by using their free silver, but that's about it. The only reason I gave their castle and Imperial Age a 6 is the passive silver generation. Their strength is in their army, not their economy. Economical average is gonna be 5.6. For map independence, they do fine on open land, but nothing really outstanding. Water and hybrid maps are complete disaster for them. Even with Byzantine fire ships, they just aren't good enough. Their best performance is on semi-closed or closed maps due to their amazing late game. Map independence is gonna be averaging 5.75. Win conditions are also lackluster, 6.0. They can outboom you, they can't go for secret sites in feudal, heck, even fast castle doesn't make much sense. You are better off staying in feudal to get your silver upgrades and just fight. The Ridari are nice and the lack of upgrade cost in Imperial is helpful, but it's nothing special. Now to their worst category by far, unit flexibility. Because your upgrades are so specific, you end up locking yourselves into the one unit composition. Even though the units are amazing, like they are 10 out of 10, the upgrades make tech switching so hard that trying to pivot in the late game usually means that. Unit flexibility, 4.0. Finally, their best rating, combat. Their feudal is just amazing. Why? One building to rule them all. The archer spear composition feels so easy to mass because you only need one military building type. Castle Age is awesome too, you get your +3 or +4 mid Castle Age, and any fight you will take will just be devastating because of it. In Imperial, they have arguably the best army in the game. I didn't even mention that their units can basically respawn. Truly a top tier military, 9.0. Overall, they are worst civilization on our list, even though highest win rate in the AoE world, 6.2. 28 is their final score. Next up, Golden Horde. Economy, honestly, it feels terrible. Even though your villagers technically are produced faster, you are losing about 17 seconds of work time for every villager you train. You have almost no other eco bonuses to make up for it. Sure, you eventually get 50% more military out of your resources, but I count that as a combat bonus, so yeah, not economy. That's why their eco sits at 6.2. Map independence suffers for the same reason. Losing that early income on wood due to the villager idle time destroys your tempo on water and hybrid maps. A Dark Age rush isn't really an option, so they struggle on open land maps too. Their only decent maps are closed or semi-closed because you can set up trade, but even that doesn't feel great. Average 5.25. Win conditions are bad early on. The forced double production mechanic means you have to overcome its resources, making it very hard to react to your opponent. It also hurts your boom if you can barely afford one Keshik. Being forced to do 2 Keshiks just feels awful. However, once you hit that sweet Imperial Age, you can do literally anything. Trade, mass army, secret sites. Thanks to the 50% more units, the late game potential pulls the score up to 6.67. Unit flexibility is following the same pattern early on. It's really bad early on because you are forced into double production, but once you hit that power spike in a castle age and resource difference between 1 or 2 units feels much smaller, it gets way better rapidly. By Imperial Age, the faster production speed actually helps you tech switch faster in other civilizations, average 7.33. Combat. Dark Age is weak, again the double spearman issue, but the feudal gets better with the Khan and the ability to spend stone on units. The real revolution happens in Castle Age. You get your most OP upgrades and very strong horse archers. It only gets better in the Imp, combat average 7.5. Overall, relatively good Civ, final rating 6.66. Now for the Tughlaq. Their economy is relatively strong, you get bonus resources, and not needing to build lumber or mining camps saves you the idle time other civs waste on the construction of them. However, it's not 9 or 10 because it requires huge investments. You basically have to build small castles to unlock your full eco potential. Also, they fall off in Imperial because of the lack of the good trade, meaning you will struggle with the gold income in the late game. Economical average 7.6. Map independence is decent, and I have been told by a few pro players that Tughlaq is actually surprisingly good on water and hybrid maps, likely because of their eco bonuses, reduced villager travel time, and etc. On land they do well, but they face resource squeeze. You have to heavily invest into your economy and your army at the same time. They are just too expensive. Map independence is gonna be averaging 7.5. Win conditions feels good and bad simultaneously. Early on you have tons of options, healer elephants, Ridari, archers, or even keep drops. But as the game drags on, the lack of the ranged elephants like archer elephant and hand cannoneer elephant starts to hurt. Your economy remains good, but you run out of the effective ways to spend it. Win conditions are gonna be averaging 6.67. Let's be fair, unit flexibility is bad. Like, really bad. I don't even need to load into the game to know their army composition is gonna be elephant plus archer. That's not necessarily weak, but it is their only real viable play, making them extremely predictable. Flexibility is gonna be averaging 5.67. Combat isn't their strongest suit either. We all remember the healer elephant spam. After the nerfs, it's still good, but it's no longer a free win. The army is strong but very expensive and relatively easy to counter. The only saving grace is Imperial Age, where their high population efficiency bumps the score up slightly. Combat average 6.5. Final rating 6.86. This places them very close to our next civilization, OOTD. Economy is surprisingly decent in Dark Age. Why? Tier packs. Your get rate is so fast that you can strip the deer pack of food before your opponent shows up, especially against the more passive civ in early feudal like Malians. After that, the economy falls off hard due to the food issues, until they hit Imperial. There, it ramps up again thanks to the Palace of Swabia and the pop efficiency of the villagers. Their get rate is 33% faster, but it still takes up only one population space. Truly magnificent. Average 7.4. Map independence suffers on land due to the lack of the unit count. You don't have enough bodies to raid and defend at the same time. You are forced to form one big dead ball and send it down to the middle. If you split up, you get destroyed. Hybrid maps are better though. The OOTD Arcane Chapel has a larger range than the standard HRE one, allowing for the better wood get rate longer. Plus, fishing fixes their biggest issue, the lack of food. Average 6.5. Win conditions are bad early on. Feudal feels like a survival mode, and in Castle Age you can go for the relic and crossbow, which is okay, but you lack the food for pure spam. However, in Imperial the roles reverse. You suddenly have the economy for literally anything you want to do. Average 6.33. Unit flexibility is really bad until Imperial Age because you are forced to overcome it. Sometimes one normal spearman is enough to scare one horseman away from your archer, but with OOTD you have to pay double every single time for the gilded unit to do that simple job. It is the same over-investment issue we saw with the Golden Horde. Average 5.33. Finally, the combat. We are looking at one of the best civs in the game, feels-wise, even if statistically their units are sometimes worse than two standard units. That said, they have the best crossbows in the game due to range. It looks like a small change on paper, but in reality it makes a massive impact. Even if one crossbow costs 2 kidneys, it's worth paying it. And their hand cannoneers in Imp, they are basically machine guns. Average 7.75. Total score 6.92. Now for the English. Economy in Dark Age is average as it gets. Sure, you can open with the 2-2-2 build, but 90% of the time you are going for the basic 7 food 3 gold opener. In Feudal it gets slightly stronger, mainly due to the campfire and cheaper farms. These play a huge role in Castle Age. Once you have 20 or 24 farms, then your food suddenly becomes magic. In Imperial your eco is very strong, but the lack of gold becomes a small issue due to the high cost of upgrades. However, in the post-imp, enclosures come in clutch big time. Even when there is no gold left on the map, generating gold without need to invest into the trade is a huge advantage. Average 7.4. In terms of map independence, English is relatively good. You have excellent food income, so you don't rely on fish for the hybrid maps, and your double TC play is very solid. On water, your navy isn't trash, it's slightly better than the average. It's not revolutionary like HRE or Templar, but it's good. On closed maps, you have amazing boom potential, but the lack of trade holds them back again. Average 6.0. For win conditions, English has quite a few viable plays. At low ranks we see a lot of longbow rushes. The higher you go, the more of a horseman spearman compositions or double TC plays. Feudal pushes are relatively good, and fast castle is also the option because farm transitions are just so smooth. You have a lot of flexibility in the Castle Age. Whether they are all top tier is another debate, but the options are definitely there. Average 7.33. Unit flexibility is just okay-ish early on. Even if you have options to switch unit compositions, it's harder than you would expect. Why? Because longbows rely on critical mass. If you don't have dead ball of 40 to 50 archers, they feel like the overpriced slow archer. This dictates their playstyle. However, in Castle Age and Imperial Age, switching gets easier as the time goes on because of their extremely strong food economy, averaging 6.0. In terms of combat, the armies are really good, but they have one giant problem: speed. The army is just too slow, especially against cavalry chiefs. You get raided, flanked, and have your longbows picked one by one. In Castle Age, you get one of the strongest men-at-arms in the game, which helps a lot though. In Imperial Age, longbows became great again, and Wingardian Rangers are basically crossbows with the giant range, averaging 7.25. Next up is Jeanne. Economy, since we are counting unit discounts under the combat category, her actual economy is terrible. I mean, like, really bad. It is until late Castle Age or Imperial Age, then the guild hall starts to play a big role. Trade is also good, but you genuinely only trade in post-Imperial Age, and that is the reason for the low score of 5.8. Map independence is simply the more open land, the better. Why? Because it's really hard to get XP for Jeanne on water or hybrid maps. Hybrid isn't as harsh as it seems. You get a lot of food for your knights, but since knights are cheaper on food, you don't actually need that much of it. You would rather have more villagers on gold, like the standard French, average 6.0. In terms of win conditions, in Feudal you are always trying to rush for level 3 Jeanne. In Imperial it gets better because you have the Guild Hall and usually hit level 4 relatively soon in it. Her keeps are excellent if you age up with the Red Palace, and trade feels very nice in the post-imp. And in the post-Imperial it is basically French, but you get a hero, and that's the reason for 7.0. Unit flexibility is okay. Cheaper units technically make switching comps a tiny bit easier, however, there are some compositions you just can't or won't switch out of. For example, if switching from knights to spears make 100% sense for the counter, you still want to make knights because they are just too good to pass on. This makes your composition predictable. There isn't anything wrong about it, but it just is what it is. Combat. Finally, this is where we count those cheaper units, and well, it's good. In Feudal you definitely have one of the strongest army compositions and armies for the set amount of resources. Plus, you are getting Jeanne on top of it. In Castle is really good, even though knights fall off a bit. In M, it again one of the strongest armies in the game, average 8.75. Total score of 6.9. Next up, Abbasid Dynasty. Economy, I think I don't need to explain why Abbasid is good here. Cheaper villagers, cheaper town centers, cheaper farms, better villagers, amazing trade. I'm just going to give them 8.6 and we can move on. Map independence, of course, they are very good on closed and semi-closed maps where they can boom. On water, cheaper docks helps, but it's not quite enough to dominate. However, those cheaper docks are excellent on hybrid maps. It makes grabbing just 3 or 4 shorelines actually justifiable. On open land they struggle a bit because their army composition is too slow to chase the raids. Average 7.0. Win conditions, they are solid. You might think their feudal rating is low, but that's for one reason. You play feudal to win in Castle Age. It isn't bad at all. It's just the nature of the TIF. Average 7.67. Unit flexibility. Switching between units is not hard because of your giant economy, but my question is, what do you switch to? Everything is good, but nothing is revolutionary. In Imperial we see very good camel archers, but until then, even with Abbasid economy, they just cost too much to justify. Average 5.67. Combat. The Abbasid army is strong, mainly because of how many resources they have, not because of the units themselves are overpowered. It shines in Imperial Age thanks to the strength of the camels and the buffs they provide, but otherwise, it's about quantity over quality. Average 6.0. That gives them the total score of 7.08. Next up, Ayyubids. The economy is very unique because it's very front-loaded. The earlier in the age you are, the better it feels. Your bonuses are huge advantages now. like instant villagers or resources, rather than scaling up over time like faster villagers or anything in that sense. Because of this, their eco gets comparatively worse as the game goes on, leaving them with nothing special in the post-Imperial Age, averaging 7.0. In terms of map independence, Ayyubids are solid. They excel on open land and do very well on closed or semi-closed maps. Water is their weak point, the lack of major naval bonuses. There used to be strategy where you age up super fast with cheaper age up and then kill your opponent with a timing push, but that got nerfed pretty hard. Average 7.5. Win conditions peak heavily in Castle Age. You have tons of options: siege spam, camel lancer spam, or very fast secret sight timer. The Gamba aka Bazaar wing is also an option. Maybe not the best one, but it's there. You have free hand in Castle Age, but the later the game goes, the fewer win conditions you have left. Average 6.33. Unit flexibility isn't as high as it seems. Sure, you have excellent camels and siege, but that's kinda it. It isn't terrible. Switch into the Gulams is okay, your archers and hand cannoneers are good thanks to Sultan's Mamelukes, but generally you are pushed towards specific compositions. Average 7.0. Combat is their strongest category, and by far, especially in Castle Age, the Camel Lancer is just such a good unit, and the Manjanik is the best siege unit in the game. If that isn't enough, you also have the big beautiful Tower of Sultanate. I would argue they have one of the strongest and the best armies in the Castle Age. In Feudal, they get a lot of help from the Dervishes, and in Imp, Desert Raiders become really strong as well. That's averaging them 7.5. Total score 7.12. Next up, Demon Thief aka Lancaster. Economy, this is by far one of the strongest economies in the Dark Age thanks to the sheep buff. In the Feudal, once you get the manor down with the 20 villagers in its range, it becomes the best Feudal Age economy in the game. Period. Castle Age isn't as bright though. The farm transition hits hard and the lack of the cheaper farm bonus from the standard English is a small problem. However, in Imperial Age, having all those manors generate gold is a huge buff again. Average 8.2. Map independence. Open land is their strongest map type because of their amazing feudal push. Water is just okay, it's similar to English, and closed maps are not ideal because of harder utilization of the early aggression. Average 6.75. Win conditions are just above average. You have a lot of options in Feudal thanks to their amazing eco, but in Castle you fall off big time due to the farm transition. Imperial comes in clutch with the Vanguard again, but that's about it. Average 7.0. Unit flexibility. In Feudal you are pretty locked into the one composition, Archer / Spearman spam, but in Castle Age things open up slightly. You get amazing knights with bonus against heavy units, very good horsemen and cheap hand cannoneers if you go for them, or massmen at arms that can pick all crossbows one by one thanks to the throwing daggers. In Imp, flexibility drops down a bit again, but average is 6.67. Combat in Feudal, you have very strong kings, and spear / archer ball feels amazing to have, though mobility is a small issue. In Castle your army is relatively good, and if we would count in hand cannoneers fully, they would be amongst the best by far. But not many people go for them because of the need to make a landmark and the upgrade. The main issue is that your archers start falling over here too. In Imperial Age, synchronized shot plays a big role in sniping light units from the enemy and sniping hand cannoneers as well. Also, in super late game, when wood runs out on the map, having horsemen cost 20 gold is actually better than costing wood. Though in my 2000 hours on this game, I have only reached this stage a handful of times. Average 6.75. Total score 7.19. Now, Mongols. Economy is horrible. You basically lose one villager immediately because you have to drive around and set up your town center. While you technically have improved upgrades via stone, in reality nobody goes for them. You would much rather spend that stone on military. The only reason they aren't 5 across the board is trade, but that usually only kicks in during the post-imperial age. Average 6.2. In terms of map independence, Mongols are very good on open land and hybrid maps. Their raiding potential and spear rushes allow them to deny enemy docks, which offsets their own lack of water bonuses. Water maps are as standard as it gets, but closed maps aren't bad thanks to their trade potential. Average 7.25. Win conditions feel amazing. You have the tower rush, Keshi grades, Mangadai harassment behind the woodlines, trade, and the ability to build trebuchets right in front of the enemy's base. In Imperially, you get a ton of free units thanks to the Khaganat's palace. This is average 8.0. Unit flexibility is okay. Switching unit comps is easy in feudal age thanks to the double production. You can pivot relatively easily, however that falls off later because you simply don't have enough stone to double produce your army in the late game. Average 7.33. Combat is very good, mainly thanks to the Khan. This is also where we count the double production mechanic. Your army is big and strong because you can mass units instantly. In Castle Age, you can theoretically use the Kulurtai to buff all your units, which helps a ton again. Imperial is the time when Mangadai became super strong as well, though in 1v1 you rarely get to see them mass. Average 8.0. Final score 7.28. Next, the Malians. Economy, oh man, that is love at first sight. In Dark Age you get about 2.5 villagers worth of passive income immediately from the pit mine. Sure, it requires an upfront investment, but it pays off really fast. Feudal gets amazing with some cows and second pit mine, but again, huge investments are required, which is why we don't see a 10 over here. However, once the cow boom hits in the Castle Age, we see probably the best early to mid Castle Age economy in the game. It falls off a bit in Imperial because you are capped at 20 cows, but post-imp recovers thanks to their amazing trade. Average 8.4. Map independence is their weakest point. Malians are very land dependent. As soon as they see water, there are problems. You need so much wood for your houses and pit mines that you don't have enough left to invest in docks. You have to choose one or the other, unlike the French who just gets more vills to do whatever they want. Average 5.75. In terms of win conditions, they are solid. It isn't anything revolutionary in feudal or imp, but in Castle Age you can do whatever you want thanks to your massive eco, or if you go for the Farimba, you get units that can win you the game on the spot. Poison javelin throwers? Yes please. Average 8.0. Unit flexibility is a double-edged sword. You have a hard counter for everything, but everyone has a hard counter for you as well. It becomes a game of tag to see who can switch faster. The problem in feudal is that you don't really want to spend your wood on new military buildings, you want to spend it on the eco. And in imp you are not even close to being population efficient enough, unless you go for mass hand cannon, and even Sofa isn't efficient enough. Average 7.0. Combat is really only good in Castle Age. The Sofa is arguably the best Castle Age knight, just, you know, without a charge, a tiny bit of a problem. Your army is theoretically very good, but extremely expensive on gold. Javelins cost gold, Sofas cost gold, Musafati warriors cost gold. That's why in Castle Age, even with amazing poison archers, your army is going good mainly because of your eco. But in imp, the army just isn't pop efficient enough to even compete. Average 6.75. Total score of 7.29. Next up, Rus. Economy is amazing no matter how you look at it. You get more sheep in the Dark Age thanks to the double scout, you get 80 bounty and hunting cabins. Golden Gate gives you incredible flexibility in the Feudal Age, plus you have seamless pro scouting capabilities and 20% wood bonus. The only reason for the fall off in Imperial is the lack of late game trade, not that you will need it anytime soon since you don't even touch your main gold mines until the Imp, but you will eventually run out. Average 7.6. Map independence. Rus is okay on every map, there isn't much to complain about. On land you have Pro Scout and very good siege. On water you have good bonuses, but your fishing ships costs more, which is advantage and disadvantage at the same time. Also, needing to invest 175 wood into the wooden fortress just to get your wood buff is a tempo issue. They also have a very solid double TC play if you want to go for it. Average 7.0. In terms of win conditions, they are solid. Archer spam, knight spam, fast castle, horse archer, fast imp into Streltsy, they can do it all. They also have amazing siege and very good relic timing. There isn't a lot of bad things to say over here. Average 8.0. The unit roster is a bit mixed though. The lack of amazing units in Feudal Age shows. Early knights are good, but they can't heal, which is the biggest advantage of the French. Your archers are only strong because of your eco, and Castle Age horse archers are still good, but not as broken as they used to before. However, Imperial Age gets really good Streltsy and amazing siege, so combat is gonna be averaging 7.0. Total score 7.31. Next, the Templar. Economy. Their Dark Age is probably one of the best because you don't need to build lumber camps and you get bonus food from chopping wood. However, the problem hits immediately when you age up. Because you age up inside of your town center, you lose villager production time during the transition. Your eco only really picks up as you approach Imperial and post-Imperial, where fortress spam is giving you pilgrims for your gold income, so it goes basically through the roof. Average 7.4. Map independence. Templars have a giant problem on maps that require early tempo. On water, however, it's a different story entirely. Thanks to their awesome wood bonus, they are arguably the best water thief in the game. Hybrid maps suffer a bit due to the recent nerf, making their docks better but more costly. Closed land maps are not as bad as open land maps, but still not ideal at all. Average 7.0. Win conditions are basically no win conditions in Feudal. You are just trying to survive while having fewer villagers than your opponent. And no landmark bonuses, that hurts a bit too. In Castle it gets better because you unlock heavy spearmen, which have only one counter in the entire game, crossbows. But as soon as you hit Imperial, you can do whatever you want. Best cavalry in the game, amazing infantry, amazing crossbows, and probably the best map control in the game thanks to the fortress spam. Truly amazing. Average 6.0. Unit flexibility. They have a lot of choices. You can basically pick 3 out of 9 special units with your age ups. This gives them incredible options to tailor their unit composition based on the opponent's civ and the map. Average 8.0. Combat. We are looking at very strong but slow army. Unit costs a kidney, but it's justifiable. The heavy spearman is probably one of the best Castle Age units in the game. In Imperial, if you need mobility, the Schlachta will be your best cavalry pick, and if you don't need mobility, Teutonic Knights are gonna be amazing. But remember, Ram is only slightly slower than they are, so expect that type of the movement speed. Average 7.75. Total score of 7.33. Next is Zushi Legacy. Economy. They have one of the better economies in the Dark Age because of the Imperial official. But you essentially lose one villager for him, which is why this isn't a 10. Feudal feels very good with the Meditation Garden and 1 or 2 IOs. The only reason it isn't higher is that you need to sacrifice villager production to get those IOs out. Castle Age is solid, the farm transition hurts a bit, but less than with standard China. Imperial and post-Imperial are very good thanks to the fact that you can have more Imperial officials than standard China, average 8.0. Map independence. Zushi is one of the most versatile civs out there. They are amazing on water, open land and hybrid maps, and okay on closed/semi-closed maps. Truly a civ you can play everywhere. Average 8.25. In terms of win conditions, we are looking at very weak feudal age. You can go for Jukonu spam, but in reality nobody does because your castle age is just so much better. And your eco bonuses are mostly suited for the fast stacking up. The lack of hand cannoneers in the Imperial Age hurts them a bit, but still really good. Average 6.67. Unit flexibility. Zushi doesn't have a big unit roster, and that shows. Your units are really good, but you only have a few of them. Your opponent usually knows exactly what you will play by loading into the game against you. Average 6.0. Combat. The units, they are amazing. Jukonu, Knights with special upgrades, Nest of Beasts and Imperial Guards. All of them are extremely good. The 20% attack speed bonus for your cavalry gives you great raiding potential, and your Knights will kill everything. If that is not enough, the Shaolin Monk is the beast on its own. Average 8.0. Total score of 7.56. Next we have the French economy. Their 1 TC economy is truly the best in the game, mostly thanks to the faster villager production, but the bonuses like Guild Hall and cheaper eco upgrades definitely helps. However, they struggle heavily in farm transitions, so their castle age eco just doesn't feel as dominant. But once you hit the Imperial Age and post-Imp, their trade potential comes in clutch again. Average 8.0. Map independence. The French are usable everywhere, but they truly shine on open land, where raiding with knights is the easiest. Water is solid, but hybrid is even better because of the feudal knight pressure. On closed maps, they have the option to go for an early trade boom, which gives them the massive potential as well, average 7.5. Win conditions. In feudal, your goal is simple. Either kill the opponent with the knights, or stall the game long enough until your faster villager production will give you 20 villager lead for the automatic win. Trade is a possibility, but usually not the primary focus. In castle, you just need to survive the farm transition. Once you hit the imp with the trade active, you can do literally whatever you want. If you have been stacking the guild hall, even wonder victory is on the table. Average 6.67. Unit flexibility. You aren't very flexible early on, you will be making knights and that's a fact. However, in castle and imperial, the unit discounts give you a completely free hand. Everything becomes viable, whether it's mass horsemen, hand cannoneers or crossbows. Average 7.0. Combat. They have by far the strongest feudal age army in the game. The fact that knights can self-heal is their biggest strength. While knights fall off a bit in castle age, they pick up again in imperial age. They also have some of the strongest crossbows in the game, and when you factor in the production discounts, their military is top tier. Average 8.0. Total score of 7.6. Next we have the Holy Roman Empire. Economy, HRE is economically one of the strongest civilizations in the game, if not the strongest. Between the Arcane Chapel, relics in Regnitz and the Palace of Swabia, it's honestly disgusting how good they are. Average is 8.8. Map independence. They have one of the glaring problems, mobility. Even with their movement speed bonuses, they struggle. Especially in Castle Age, when the timing for the grabbing relics is so crucial. Often players are forced into making knights they have no upgrades for, just to compete for the map control. This makes them struggle on open land. However, their water place is amongst the best in the game, and hybrid maps are relatively good too, averaging 7.125. Win conditions. Their options are actually quite diverse. In Feudal you can go for Pro Scouts Double TC, Feudal Push or Fast Castle. In Castle Age your choice between Burgrave and Regnets will dictate your playstyle completely though. Once you hit Imperial Age you have Secret Site Hold with the cannon tower emplacements, Black Riders and incredible raiding capability fueled by your massive food eco. You basically vacuum every single resources on the map too. Average 8.0. Unit flexibility. They are relatively flexible in the Feudal Age thanks to the faster marching infantry, decent archers and solid light cavalry. In Castle Age your entire roster gets automatically better through the unique tags, plus you unlock the Lansknecht. Imp feels good, but they lack a super unit that can mass. Hand Cannoneers are generic with no buffs and Black Riders are limited by your keep count, average 7.33. Combat. HRE is combat powerhouse early on thanks to the prelate buffs, but their units aren't anything special afterwards. Your saving grace is the inspired buff from the monks, otherwise this is one of the most vanilla armies in the game. The Lansknecht is good but too expensive and easy to counter. The Man-at-Arms is solid but not revolutionary. Imperial is okay thanks to the Black Riders, but you will usually only have 5 to 15 of them at the time. Average 7.0, total score of 7.72. Now for the Sengoku. Economy. Their economy is excellent, Yatar are amazing in the Dark Age, and boosting your food income feels great for fueling feudal units. Castle Age is strong as well, thanks to the Sake Brewery providing infinite gold. By late Castle, your Matsuri can reach a 30% gather buff for villagers, but that's where the scaling stops. You have plenty of early buffs, but as the game goes on, the lack of the trade bonuses starts to show as well. Average 8.0. Map independence. Sengoku is playable almost everywhere. They have a decent water game thanks to the cheaper fishing ships, and they excel on open land and hybrid maps due to their amazing cavalry. They are solid on the closed maps as well. Amazing. Average 7.5. Win conditions. You have a ton of viable plays in Feudal, ranging from mass cavalry to mass Yumi. Between the aggression options and the scaling eco, they are easily one of the best Feudal Age civilizations. However, later in the game you can run into the problems by locking yourselves into the one specific composition because of your daimios. Average 7.67. Unit flexibility. Early on you have a massive amount of options, but as the game progresses you end up discarding most of them because of the daimyo system. Eventually you lock yourself into the one ideal composition and you have to stick with it until the end. Otherwise you lose the majority of your AoE buffs. Average 7.33. This is one of the strongest categories. The units themselves are top tier in every age. When you combine their base stats with attack speed buff and the daimyo auras, man, they become extremely deadly. One of the best armies in the game, definitely by far. Average 8.0. Total score 7.79. Now the Delhi Sultanate. Economy. Delhi is economically very strong. Not having to pay for upgrades is an amazing bonus that grants huge tempo bonus, especially in Feudal and Castle Age. The only downside is the need to invest gold into the scholars to spend up that research. But you can use those scholars as a military support for all-in push if needed. Imperial feels amazing because you get all those expensive upgrades completely for free. However, post-Imperial feels terrible. Once you have researched everything, your big eco bonus vanishes, averaging 8.0. Map independence. You can play Delhi on any map with decent secret site spawns. If you can reliably hold 2 secret sites in Feudal, it's a good map. If you can hold 3, it's an amazing map. Water feels good though, thanks to the strong economy and fishing ships that can shoot back, killing any Dark Age rush that comes your way. Average 7.0. Win conditions. You have multiple paths to victory early on: feudal secret site control, a total all-in, castle age, keep spam, or scholar support elephant timing push. However, the closer you get to the imperial age, fewer options you have, and eventually you only have one extremely good one though: elephants. Average 8.0. Unit flexibility, they are not great here. You always know what they are going to go for: Ghazi raiders plus archers in feudal, transitioning into the elephants plus any type of support unit later. It is extremely strong but painfully predictable, averaging 6.0. Combat. The Delhi army is amongst the strongest in the game. You have your horsemen, Ghazi raiders, have a giant bonus damage against heavy armored units. Then you have the tankiest unit in the game, elephants. Well, if we don't count the Templar unit that can get HP by killing 1000 villagers. And the most population efficient unit available, also elephant. If you see a Delhi Imperial Age army at max population, just resign. At that point, only mass janissary or bombards can save you. Average 8.75. Total score of 7.79. China. China is economically one of the strongest civilizations in the game, thanks to the upgrades and taxes. The Imperial Academy gives you the huge bonus, the ability to produce imperial officials without needing to stop villager production. Dark Age is average because you don't want to make those IOs that early on you would sacrifice villagers for them. The only problem is the farm transition. It sucks completely. It feels terrible to do, but once it gets done, the eco feels amazing again, average 7.8. Map independence. China is the most versatile civ of them all. Good on water, open land, closed land, and still extremely good on hybrid. Their eco bonuses apply to everything, no matter which resource you need. Average 8.75. Win conditions. You have options in every age. Your feudal play is very solid. You can push, boom, or defend. It doesn't really matter. Castle Age feels good too, but you are most vulnerable at the moment of your farm transition. In Imperial Age, you have amazing map control thanks to your keeps and landmarks, truly marvelous. Average 8.33. Unit flexibility. They are good, but could be better. In feudal, needing to go for Song Dynasty just to make your OP unit Jukonu puts you behind on the military due to the huge investment. Castle Age feels good with the Nest of Bees and amazing men-at-arms, but if you aren't going for knights, I already know you will likely go MA plus crossbow and then later on add siege. It's not that the composition is bad, you just have very few good units to choose from. Average 6.67. Combat. They have one of the strongest armies in the feudal and imperial. However, the Jukonu falls off a bit in Castle Age, so you need to build a completely new army composition. The Nest of Bees feels very good, and your palace guards are amazing for raiding thanks to their movement speed, though their lack of armor is a small problem, especially against English. Average 7.75. Total score 7.84. Finally, the Ottomans. Economy. Their economy feels bad early on. You need to invest so many resources, mostly wood and stone for the military school, but still so many to just get that civ going. That feels sluggish. In feudal, you don't run out of food quickly thanks to the Twin Myriad Madrasa, but Castle Age feels bad again. The only saving grace is faster worker speed from the town centers, but that's only for the Vizier point. However, in Imperial Age and Post-Imp, you can have amazing trade if you take the Vizier point for it, and it gets even better with the Seagate Castle. Average 6.4. Map independence. Ottomans only do well on two map types, open land and closed land. Anything else and it falls apart. Water and hybrid maps are not good. Needing to invest into military schools delays your water play by so much that it doesn't even matter to bother with it. Average 6.75. Win conditions, these are good in every age. You have amazing units, and when the ball gets rolling, your tempo is unstoppable. The longer you and your opponent stay in the same age, the better it gets for you, because of the Vizier point system and Sipahi reaching the critical mass, where they just annihilate everything. Average 9.0. Unit flexibility. You have amazing units, and military schools gives you a lot of flexibility for them. Do you need just 4 or 9 men-at-arms to tank some archer shots? Just switch one military school to MA and you are fine. The Mehte is amazing buff for all units as well, not just archers and sipahis, which gives you a lot of tactical options as well. You can truly play anything you want. Average 7.33. Combat. To justify these numbers, I will list only 4 units: Mehte, Sipahi, Janissary, and Great Bombard. And by the way, here we count military schools as well, so yeah, I feel there is no need to elaborate further. Average 9.5. Total score 7.84. And finally, we have Japan. Economy. Their economy isn't amazing early on. You don't get many passive resources or better villagers. However, the bigger advantage is that you start your farm transition very early thanks to the Kura storehouse, and you can vacuum up berries on the map really fast. The Yoroshiro gives you fast villager production, meaning you will be able to stay on one TC if you want. In Imperial Age, fully upgraded TCs basically mean infinite food, but the lack of trade bonuses holds them back a bit in the post-imp. Average 7.2. Map independence. Japan is amongst the most versatile civs. They are amazing everywhere thanks to their bonuses and landmarks. Open maps feels amazing, closed maps feel very good, water is okay, but they love hybrid maps because of the shinobi. Average 8.25. Win conditions, they have a lot of place everywhere. In Feudal, it starts with Yumi. In Castle, you add Mounted Samurai, and in Imp, you can spam infinite infantry with your infinite food income. The only problem in Imp is that you will eventually run out of gold though. Average 7.67. Unit flexibility, we are at the top of the leaderboard right now, and that means flexibility must be good. They can do everything from infantry to archers, and even their cavalry feels amazing. Bannermans are saving them big time over here. Average 8.0. And finally, combat. We are looking at one of the strongest militaries in the Feudal Age and Castle Age as well. Feudal gets carried by Yumi and Castle by Mounted Samurai. Both units are amongst the best in their categories. And when we get the Imp, you start spamming amazing infantry. It is good against crossbows, archers, cavalry, and even Siege will have a hard time against the extremely fast on Abugacia. There is only one true counter: Mass Hand Cannoneer. Average 8.75. Total score of 7.97. And finally, we have arrived at a civilization to rule them all. The best of all, the only one with a total score above 8. Ladies and gentlemen, the Byzantines. Economy. To explain why their eco is good, I just need one word: cisterns. They are providing huge get rate buffs for all of your villagers, not just ones under a chapel like with HRE. No. This covers everyone, mostly. Plus, you get stone when you construct buildings, so making more cisterns is actually even easier. Gentlemen, I feel like I don't need to elaborate further. Average 8.6. Map independence. They suck on one front: water. The fact that you don't get that sweet olive oil from fishing means you get no free units. That is one of the biggest buffs, and losing it hurts a lot. Everywhere else, though, they are amazing. Average 6.75. Win conditions. These are only bad early on. In Feudal, you usually just want to survive and get your cisterns up. Going for a feudal push is viable, but you have to choose: do I go for cisterns or military? Doing both means losing a lot of tempo. Average 7.0. Unit flexibility. They basically tailor their unit composition to counter yours. They have very good native units, but they don't need to go for them, because they can just hire a hard counter against you using mercenaries. That's why they will be averaging 10.0. And finally, Combat. We are looking at one of the strongest armies in the Castle Age. Cataphract plus Longbowmen. I don't know how to stop it. You have no idea how to stop it. And the fact that they can spend all of their resources on cataphracts because the longbows are free, bought with the olive oil, feels amazing. In Imp, you have one of the best men-at-arms in the game and a lot of options for units that you can make out for olive oil. There is nothing more to say. Average 8.0. Total score 8.14. Gentlemen, we are basically done. First of all, thank you for watching. Second of all, I want to explain to you how I calculated the numbers, because if you will try to calculate this yourself from the numbers that I showed you, maybe you will get something else. So, basically, what I did was I am accounting combat, and economy twice. You may think like, why am I doing it? It's simple. I'm doing it for one reason only. Those are the two categories that are actually winning you the game. Either you have economy to beat your opponent with a Louis Vuitton wallet, or you just beat him with a better army. Everything in between is trying to accounting for different plays that they can do and for the strategy that they can execute. Over here is the final tier list, as you can see. And I have only one thing to say. Game is as balanced as we ever had it, in my opinion. I'm maybe wrong on these three down here, but if we are going to look at a very simple graph right here, they are right next to each other. Like, the differences between the civilizations are so minor that it doesn't even matter. Like, we have the third place is basically shared by Ottoman and China, and fourth is basically shared by Delhi and Sengoku. And we have more of these. Like, if you are going to look at Mongol and Malians, they are from 1/100th away from each other. So it's probably the best balance that we ever had in the recent patches. And thank you to the developers for what they did. And I guess there are mistakes over here in this tier list. I definitely made them. Sorry for that. I definitely think that I have mistakes in these three. These three down here. You may think like, why? And it's really simple. They are new civs. I don't know what they can execute. I played some of them, not all of them. I haven't played a lot of Tughlaq because I hate Delhi and Tughlaq, but that's out of the window. The important thing that I want to say, thank you for watching, because you made it in for like 1 hour. And remember, if you made it this far, I think that there are a few buttons down below that you can try to press if you want. If you don't want, you don't want. And in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, bye-bye.